working actually with startups, with entrepreneurs, with new technologies, both internally and externally, to actually reinvent this industry and bring it to the next stage that will be healthier, more sustainable, and even more fulfilling for consumers is super exciting.
Welcome to 20-Minute Leaders. Just sit back, relax, and learn from the leaders of today. It's a journey. Each one is different, unique, inspiring. Let's get started. This episode is powered by J Ventures, a community-driven VC fund in Silicon Valley, in partnership with Leumi Tech, sponsored by Homeward Ventures, Hippo Insurance, Upwest Labs, Synergy Global, Hillel at Stanford, Leap, Birthright Excel, Serona Partners, and in media partnership with C-Tech. If you like food or snacks or both, this episode is just for you. Meet Gil Horsky. Gil's passion is investing in and building new snacking and food tech ventures that are good for people, kind to the planet, and deliciously fun. Gil is part of the SnackFutures founding team, the Ventures and Innovation Hub from Mondelēz International, the largest snacking company in the world. Gil is the Senior Director of Venture Investments at Mondelēz, leading the company's global venture investments in food tech, supply chain, and digital capabilities. Prior to joining Mondelēz, Gil worked for PepsiCo in the US, and throughout his career, Horsky had the privilege to work on some of the most iconic global brands like Milka, Pepsi, Quaker Oats, Toblerone, Cadbury, Oreo, Tropicana, and Nestle Purina, and leveraged strong business and consumer insights. Meet Gil. Gil, you have such a phenomenal background working with some of the most incredible organizations after doing your Bachelor's of Arts in Political Science in Tel Aviv University, and then getting your MBA at Kellogg, and then transitioning to be working at PepsiCo and Tor Food Tech and Nestle, and today Mondelēz, looking at SnackFutures and the future of snacks. So Gil, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm really excited.
I'm super excited as well, and you're right. I think it's super exciting to talk about the future of food and snacking, and there's so much going on in general in this space in the last few years, and especially in Israel. So, yeah, happy to share more.
Well, so I want to understand, what is the future of food, and how should we begin asking ourselves a question, really a research question. What does the future of food hold for us? How do we even approach a complicated question like that?
Sure. So I think, the interesting thing is, the food and ag industry is one of the biggest industries in the world. It's an $8 trillion industry, from growing seeds to shelf and to what we eat on our tables at home. And, the world of food and snacking is definitely changing. I mean, the way we're eating today and what we're eating today is very different than what we ate a few years ago. And I think, some of the changes we're seeing, first of all, is, we all grew up, I'm sure you're the same, with eating 3 meals a day. And today we're eating probably something like on average 7 mini meals per day. We're all on the go. We don't have time anymore to cook and to eat 3 stable meals with our family. We're on the go. We're looking for the different nutrition we need. We have different needs throughout the day. We might need something with energy in the morning. We might need something that gives us another energy in the afternoon. We might need something before we go to sleep to fall asleep. We might want something like an indulgence in the evening, or snack with family and friends in front of TV. And I think all these behaviors are really changing the industry. And of course, the last 100 years have moved the food industry to become much more industrialized and at much more scale. And that's companies like ours. And, I know you mentioned, obviously, Mondelēz. Mondelēz is the largest snacking company in the world. So we are the biggest chocolate company in the world, with brands such as Milka, Toblerone, and Cadbury, and the largest biscuit company with Oreo and Belvita. And hopefully, Michael, you eat a lot of our products. If not, I'll make sure to send you a few home after this interview. But basically now, actually, you're seeing a lot of trends of consumers going back to the pre-industrialization phase. People are looking, especially, by the way, COVID changed a lot of things. People are suddenly looking for locally grown food. You start having the concept of vertical farming or urban farming, or even people just growing vegetables and fruits in their houses, gardens, etc. The second thing you're seeing is the need of personalization. People are suddenly saying, you know what, each of us has different needs. You might be a diabetic, somebody else might be is a vegan or gluten-free, etc., or even different tastes. So the industry is changing keeping with some of those needs, of course. And then I think one of the biggest changes is, of course, around sustainability and circular economy. Consumers are much more concerned. How is their food grown? Is it in a sustainable way? Is the packaging sustainable and recyclable? And all these things are actually a very fertile ground for a lot of innovation, a lot of new startups, a lot of big companies like ours that are needing to reinvent themselves the whole time, which I think what makes the food industry so exciting today.
So we're in the beginning of 2022. Obviously, I believe that the shelves that we're seeing on the supermarket are vastly different than the way that they looked, even 10 years ago. And the rate of change of the shelves and the ability for small brands to pop up and allow themselves to reinvent themselves, or for large companies. And I'm sure that a lot of the brands that I see on the shelf are actually Mondelēz. But what is the opportunity today for reinvention in the world of food tech? What is new to 2022 that we didn't have 100 years ago that allows us to do this rapid invention and innovation?
So there's a lot of things that are actually enabling to do reinvention. If you look until 10 years ago, there was only one route to market. You could sell at stores. Let's talk about the US or in Israel. It's Superstar. The US might be Whole Foods, Walmart, whatever that is, Costco, Sam's. You were only able to sell at retail mainly. The big companies like ours were players in retail. What has changed is suddenly the retail environment started changing. First of all, e-commerce came, direct to consumer, Amazon. Guess what? When you're a small brand, you actually can succeed as much as a big brand in the online space. Too, a lot of retailers were looking for smaller brands. Some retailers, such as Costco, Sam, Whole Foods, Starbucks in the US, were much more looking for giving this experiential experience for consumers with new, unique brands, and consumers were looking for them. And I think that enabled a lot of change in the industry, because a lot of the new smaller brands have brought a lot of change. And when you're asking about what we're expecting in the future, or what is up in 2022 is a few things. I mean, plant-based is big, so consumers are looking to eat less meat or eat meat that is not coming from an animal, both from an environmental perspective and also from an ethical perspective. The same is with milk, the same is with seafood. We're seeing these waves. I think that's one thing. The second thing is, which I'm very excited, is the space of food as medicine, is actually the notion of, can food become a great carrier for prevention of health for you as a consumer? Meaning, can you actually, instead of taking pills, instead of eating powders, can your snacks or food have a functional benefit that can be as effective as some of those, but it's in a form that is tasty? And we're seeing some interesting ingredients such as functional mushrooms moving into that space that we were looking at, or nootropics or others. So those are some of the interesting spaces. And I would just add also, you asked earlier how is the industry changing for smaller brands? That's one of the reasons why we created SnackFutures. So SnackFutures is not about just claiming what's the future. Actually, we do three things. We manage the company's corporate venture arm. So we make investments in early stage startups, both on the brand side and also on the food tech and capability side. And we invested in Israel in a company called Tor Food Tech that actually enables you to actually weld together ingredients into snacks without the sugary binder. That's one thing we do. The second thing, we actually incubate new businesses. So for example, we're big believers in the space of vegetables. Again, as I said earlier, people are eating less meals a day. They're eating mini meals. Historically, vegetables were eaten in meals. So consumers are eating less vegetables, but they're looking to get a vegetable in a snack form. If you think about it, a fruit, a banana or an apple, you can eat on the go, but you would never see somebody down the street in Dizengoff walking with a tomato or a cucumber. The only vegetable that is snackable is maybe a carrot. So we actually incubate new businesses like entrepreneurs. We do it separately from the company, because our company is, it's a $30 billion sales company, almost $100 billion market cap. We are built for scale. So we would actually go aside and, like an entrepreneur, work with an outside R&D team, with an outside co-packers, with an outside distributor, and incubate a brand. And one of those we did in vegetables is called it's called Dirt Kitchen. And we test it usually in LA, in one market, several stores. We see how it does. And if it does well, we scale it up. So those are some of the things we're doing. So in a way, we're taking some of the things from the playbook of entrepreneurs and putting them in a big company setting.
Does technology play any role in what you're describing here? So obviously, there's the go-to-market strategy and A/B testing and being able to leverage technology to create the actual product. But what can we leverage today in 2022 in terms of, the technology around us, social media, different tracking mechanisms to even understand whether the product we're putting on the store works, besides the fact how much is being sold from the shelf?
Technology plays a huge role in the industry. Again, as I said, it's an $8 trillion industry end to end. And actually, there's a McKinsey study that was done a few years ago about some of the largest industries in the world and their level of digitization. And food and ag was one of the lowest ones. So technology plays a role even from, just manufacturing, IoT, big data, Industry 4.0, and for sure, to your question, in the space of market research. In the past, we had to wait sometimes weeks and months to get insights from consumers online. Today, in the physical world, we would, when I started off in Pepsi, I still remember we would go to a shopping mall and we would stop consumers and let them taste it and wait for all the data. Today, you can actually do things very quickly. We can put different concepts on Facebook, Instagram. We call it Instra Pops. We wait to get consumers to see if they click through. And from that, we see what concept interests them. There's not even a product yet, but we're just seeing the engagement level, the interest level. The same as today, you have the ability to do focus groups online, to talk with consumers online. We talk with consumers in their homes. We sometimes send them products, and they actually use their phone with a WhatsApp, and actually every day would send our market research team insights on when they're using the product, pictures, videos. So today we are able to get insights, on a daily basis if we need, versus in the past you had to wait weeks and months. And the same is, by the way, for social media. If you want to mine trends and look at what is spoken on social media, what are the trends, we can zoom down to the level of seeing, what's happening in New York State or New York City. What are consumers looking for, even in a certain neighborhood, from an ingredient perspective, a food perspective, a dish perspective, a brand perspective. So obviously it gives you a lot of power. I think the bigger challenge is actually distilling your insights and actions from all that insights. Today, we have so much data and learnings and insights, so distilling these for something actionable, that's probably the harder part today.
So what I'm hearing here is that it all comes down to the actionability. Now, what are we seeing in terms of micro brands versus the larger brands? That and in terms of also trust and consumer behavior surrounding that, because if before I was only contemplating purchasing a certain brand of, for example, dairy in the supermarket, now it seems that I'm much more compliant to try different brands and even get excited when there's a new, young, and exciting brand that is showing its face on the shelf. What's happening with consumer behavior there?
Right. So, I think what you're seeing, as I mentioned before, I think in the last 10 years, you're seeing that 10 years ago, you would not see emerging brands because they didn't even have where to be sold. Today they have, and a lot of them have a strong founder story. It can be a female or a male, or even we see teenagers with a strong story, why they created it, with a strong mission, and they would usually start creating a tribe around them, a tribe of followers and believers, and slowly scale up. And some of the biggest brands you see today, maybe 5 years ago, have started is a small kind of more micro brand. I think what we do in SnackFutures, we try to either invest in some of those that are in the well-being snacking space or even build our own. But I would definitely say that being a micro brand today, there's much more openness, both from a retailer and a consumer perspective, to try new things. Obviously, there's still the fundamentals. You have to be a great tasting product. At the end of the day, food is about taste. So you can have the sexiest marketing and packaging and solve all these nutritional benefits. If the thing is not tasty and you won't have repeat, the brand just won't go anywhere. And I think you still need patience. Building a brand, and I think that's the beauty and the challenge in this industry. We are talking about physical products. It's very different than some of the tech we know in some of the companies you interview with some of your other sessions, which is maybe a fintech product or a cyber that can just go and scale within a night and become very, very big. Here it's still real world. You manufacture, you distribute, you sell. Slowly you scale up. You get into more stores, more people buy you. So you need patience, even if you're a micro brand. But it's definitely a very interesting time of both micro brands and big brands. And I think the way I view it from our perspective, when we have big brands, it just makes us better, right? Because we, in the past, our playbook was competing against other big brands. We all were using very similar strategies and tactics. We all came from the same companies. Today, we actually need to compete with a lot of smaller brands that are growing very fast. So I think, and I'm saying this in a positive way, I think when you're in a dynamic market and you don't just have one or two competitors, you have actually 20, and they have different playbooks, it just makes you better. So I view it as a positive thing. And for the consumer, it's great because there's more choice.
100%. And obviously, we can look at classic examples like Nokia and Kodak and a lot of different companies that really were monopolies in their field and were market leaders. And at the end, what eventually brought to their downfall in many cases and in many verticals is really the fact that they didn't have a need really for innovation, and it wasn't very clear that the market was demanding it. And I think that that's just an awesome observation for how you're experiencing it within a large company. If we're looking, years down the line at snacking as a concept and snacking behavior, is this going to change at all? Or do we have just a fundamental idea, okay, we as humans, we eat meals and we enjoy snacking, and this is how we're going to be, this is how we perceive humanity moving forward?
It's a beautiful question. I think that our belief, and I think we have strong conviction, and I also have a strong conviction, again, we're not fortune tellers, so time would say, but our strong belief is that snacking is a behavior, is just going to get bigger. So this trend of consumers eating today, on average, depends on the country, et cetera, but, one can claim maybe, around 7 mini meals per day would just get bigger because people are more busy. People have gotten used to these different needs throughout the day, et cetera, and different products solving different problems for consumers or fulfilling their needs throughout the day. I think the interesting part is going to be, how are these snacks going to look in the future? How are they going to evolve? So today, for example, we're all used to a snack bar. How would a snack bar look like in 5 years? Or you're even seeing some concepts that are blurring lines. For example, you have a category which is actually meal replacement. It's basically beverages. You have several brands around the world that are doing it. It's a beverage that you drink it, and it actually gives you the same nutrients and satiety feeling of a meal. And that's, by the way, a snack also. Even a beverage can be a snack. If it's fulfilling and doing a need of a snack and it's on the go, it can serve as a snack. So I think we're going to see an evolution of what are these product forms, what needs they're fulfilling, because consumers are going to have different needs, and we all have different needs throughout our lives as we age, etc. So I think that's going to be the evolution we see in the industry. And the second one is, how do we actually get these products? I mean, again, I don't want to be now looking super crazy to the future, but, today we still buy them online in the store. I mean, maybe there's a day, I don't think it's in the near term, but, maybe 10, 15 years down the road, you're going to have a 3D printer and you're going to press a button and you're going to print all the snacks for the next day. I mean, could be, maybe not. I don't know. It's hard to say. But I think we're definitely going to see an evolution of the needs and of the product forms in the future. And obviously, as specific trends evolve, for example, sustainability, et cetera, even more responsibility around how we source ingredients, how the products are made, because I think the topic of sustainability and the impact that the food industry has on the sustainability and climate and the ecosystem and in general is just going to become a bigger topic, and that's clear.
What do you enjoy most about what you do? I see clearly you're so passionate about this world, and you have such an incredible experience all around. What do you enjoy most about this work that you do here?
I mean, I think, first of all, there's not a bigger joy than fulfilling needs of consumers. And, I mean, again, we all think we do it, but, I engage with consumers on a daily basis. Listen, I go to my kid's school or I go to a party and somebody starts telling me what is their favorite Milka or Oreo flavor. And, the amazing thing in snacks, especially in chocolate and cookies and all these things, people are emotionally attach to them, engage in them. Listen, there's a lot of research that the first chocolate you ate as a kid, you think is the tastiest chocolate. I don't know which one you had, but it's a chocolate you grew up with, and it's the taste of your childhood, and you have a lot of memories with it. So I think it's a very emotionally engaging industry and role. And I think specifically for me in my specific world is working actually with startups, with entrepreneurs, with new technologies, both internally and externally, to actually reinvent this industry and bring it to the next stage that will be healthier, more sustainable, and even more fulfilling for consumers is super exciting.
I love it. Gil, I really want to thank you for your awesome, outlook and excitement and understanding and expertise. I just love what you're doing, and it sounds so freaking cool. And I really appreciate your time and your energy. And that's it. Just thank you, and stay safe and stay healthy.